So what are Git and GitHub? These are incredibly useful tools that we're going to be using a lot throughout the course. So this video will give a brief overview of what they are and a little bit of the basics on how they work. Git is a piece of software. So this is actually a piece of software that you've installed on your computer already. And what it does is it takes care of version control, which means tracking updates or any changes to your files. These changes could include things like adding a new file, editing or manipulating an existing file, or even deleting a file or set of files. To use Git, we run Git commands from the command line, and this allows us to take full advantage of all of these version control functions. On the other hand, we have GitHub. GitHub is a website, it's cloud-based, and it's online, and what it does is it hosts files at github.com. And what GitHub really is useful for is collaboration and sharing code with others, anyone who we might be working with on our coding projects, or even sharing code publicly. So one thing is that Git is a program that operates on your local computer. When we say local, we almost always mean your own computer. On the other hand, github.com is on the cloud, and when we say on the cloud, we usually mean on the web, online, on the internet. And a lot of what the functionality of Git and GitHub do is to sync changes back and forth between the local and what we call the remote, or what is on the cloud on github.com. This is usually done in the form of repositories. And repositories, or repo for short, is essentially a folder plus added Git tracking, or this added version control functionality. So for the most part, when we say repository or repo, you can think about a folder with this extra added functionality. Each repo is usually containing files for an individual project. So for example, I could have two repos on my computer. This first one here is a folder for my tip calculator app, and it's a Git repository with all the files and associated things I need for this app. My second one is another repo with a separate project on a Django polls app. And so I have different sets of files for that repository in that folder. So how does this actually work? How does Git actually start tracking the files? The first step is that when we're in a working directory, what we can do is we can do something called git add. This is literally a command that we input at the command line to take advantage of that Git functionality. We can use the command git add to do something called staging our files. We put them in the staging area. And we'll go over this a little bit more later, but essentially what this means is that we're getting ready to track these files. We haven't officially tracked them yet, but we're getting ready to track them. The next step is called git commit. And what I've done is I've put a picture of a camera here because you can think of a commit as taking a snapshot of the files that have been staged. After you git add, these files are staged, then you use git commit to take a snapshot of where those files currently are at that point in time. Now these files are officially committed to your Git repository. But what's important to remember is that so far everything that I've been talking about is happening locally. This is happening directly on your computer. So then now if we want to sync with github.com or the remote, we have some more things that we can do. So there's the remote version on the cloud on github.com, and if we want to bring files and sync our files from the local computer to github.com, we can do something called git push. This is the command for pushing files from the local computer to the remote. And then if we want to bring things back from the remote, get any updates from the remote online version at github.com and bring them to our local computer, we can do git pull. So git push and git pull are sort of the opposites for one another. These two commands coordinate updates between the local and remote versions of a repository. So this is sort of a lot of information that I'm presenting right now. This is just to give a brief overview of the different things that Git and GitHub can do. In the next set of videos, we're going to go over how to actually put this into practice with a couple of examples. See you soon.